9. Ooh, that's not it. I know I need to get the vest, but it's fine. This works, right? Okay, in 1829, Joseph Smith and Oliver Cowdery were visited by John the Baptist, who gave them the Aaronic priesthood, the authority they needed to baptize. Later, that same year, Peter, James, and John appeared and gave them the Melchizedek priesthood. Even though the priesthood was being restored, Joseph was still learning a lot about how the church should be organized, like how the priesthood offices should function, what ordinances needed to be performed, and what the Lord expected from his servants. Organizing the priesthood took time, as does organizing anything. And the quorum of the 12 apostles wasn't officially formed until early 1835. Okay, and maybe that shows a little bit as to why can we just give a moment to General Conference and how amazing that was? It felt really healing to be able to sit at the apostles' feet and just like soak it in, it was just the best thing. And I feel like my heart really needed it. My spirit really needed that. And wasn't that interesting that there's no new temples announced? And I thought, oh yeah, President Nelson would have totally wanted to do that. And what a sweet tribute to him to like not announce new ones, right? And then also, I think it is also sweet, right? Or like, so, I don't know what else. My vocabulary does not extend past sweet, cute, and awesome for descriptive words. So I just thought it was such like a special thing that like they didn't just automatically call like a whole new first presidency and all these things like so fast, because it does take time. And organizing, another like calling another member to the quorum of the 12 apostles would be like a giant task. And then also doing like calling the first presidency would also be a giant task. You know what I mean? So I think it's sweet that they are waiting. Obviously, I'm sure they didn't do it because Linda's going to think it's sweet. But I think that obviously it takes time. And so, but I just thought that was nice that it wasn't just like automatic. Because here in our church, in our church culture, we're so used to being like, whoop, this person's out, this person's in, let's go, And I kind of like we're just going to wait for a minute and pause and not really just like out and in, like here you go. And from being Relief Society president, Young Women's president, primary president, it would be nice to have that like break of like, hey, you know what? It's going to take a minute to find the next person. So let's just take a moment and like appreciate what the person has done and prepare for the next person who's going to come. But like, I don't think it was as impactful when I was Relief Society president being released because our ward boundaries changed. And immediately I was released, like right when the ward's boundaries changed. So I didn't even get like the whole like, hey, we're going to release you and like the thanks and exit thing. And it was just more like, I was literally released at the pulpit and I'm like, and I had no idea. And I was like, whoa, okay. But you know what? Because it was that way, I didn't take it so personal and Satan couldn't like morph it into something worse, right? Whereas being Young Women's president, oh man, that really like threw me. It was so hard when I was released and someone else was called and Satan really loved that. And so he was just torturing me. And it was like after D-Day, I hadn't really figured things out and like learned how to I didn't even know how to process what my husband was going through, let alone things that I was going through. And like the torture was just so real. Anyway, it was just like crazy. And I would have appreciated some time. Yeah. Between, like, hey, that would have been nice. And that's just my natural woman thinking, of course, yeah, the Lord's work must go on and we can't have a delay anymore like they used to back in the day. But I do appreciate the fact that it is taking the quorum of the 12 apostles, the prophet, to like take time to think about, to ponder, to pray, to ask for revelation about who's going to be in these positions and who's going to serve next, And, maybe this just needs to be like a whole separate one, because now we're at like 8 minutes. Anyway, so so on Saturday, no, just kidding. On Thursday, I was able to go get my temple recommend renewed. And the fascinating, interesting, really something that has never happened to me before was the question. Well, I always love answering those questions about if I believe in Jesus Christ, if I have a testimony of him, and if I have a testimony of the atonement of Jesus Christ, and if I have a testimony of the restoration of the gospel. And yes, and yes, right? Like all the yeses. But something that seemed different for me was that they asked me about sustaining the prophet and his counselors, and then the quorum of the 12 apostles. And I was just like, oh, like 100,000%, sustain President Nelson. But now that he was gone, it was like, I sustain, President Oaks. And like, I got to sustain him first, right? Like before everybody else did. And then it was like, do you sustain the first presidency? And I was just like, well, there's no first presidency anymore. And so then in my mind, I'm like, oh, I sustain like who was the first presidency, and then who's gonna be in the first presidency. And then I sustain all the prophets and apostles. I sustain all the apostles. And it was just so like such a neat experience. And I got to do that twice because I was able to to be asked those questions and just have like that introspection from my bishop, and then, or from one of the members of the bishopric, and then from one of the members of the stake presidency, because I wanted to do it, and they have those interviews the same night. So I was able to be in and out, right? But just powerful reflection of my testimony and where it's at, and it's centered in Christ, and it didn't matter, and it doesn't matter to me who they call. I trust the Lord, and I trust each and every one of those brethren who are called to serve as the Lord's anointed apostles. And I was just like, yes, like heck yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I was just like, yeah, whoever it is, I will follow thee, And I was just like, it was just really neat for me to have that experience. And it's too bad they don't let you answer like, heck yeah, like, maybe I'll have to answer like that next time, right? But anyway, it was just really, really cool experience that I will forever remember, and will continue to strengthen my testimony of Jesus Christ, of his gospel, of the men he has chosen to lead his church here on the earth as the quorum of the 12 apostles. But we get 15 of them, and right now we have 14. And I'm so excited to find out who that new person will be, Could you imagine if it's like Elder Holland's son? Because Elder Holland's son spoke in conference, and I was like, and we have a twin. Anyway, I trust the Lord. I know it's going to be awesome. And whoever he calls, I will continue to sustain, because I already did. And I'm going to end this one, because I don't think that Doctrine and Covenants section 107 actually needs a whole extra 12 minutes since it's 100 verses. So, okay. Until Doctrine and Covenants section 107, stay strong, warrior. I love that I procrastinated again. Anyway, really, we just need to, can we just get smaller chapters? I just need smaller chapters.